December 27, 2025. She has left behind a legacy of 608 days in orbit, leadership and contributions to human space exploration. Let's in fact listen in to what Sunita has said on her visit to India. All right, we'll get that statement from Sunita for you for the time being, but let me also introduce our guest who is in fact joining us on the broadcast shortly, and former ISRO director, deputy director, Dr. Venkateshwara Sharma. If we have that bite, we'll play out that for you right now.
7-kilometer race.
It's even crazier.
Yes. So you mentioned earlier when we were looking at some of those beautiful images that the Earth is indeed round. But as you were looking back from space on Earth, did that in any way change your perspective on who we are, just in general?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, one of the first things you do, I think, when you get to space, I think everybody does this. I might be talking out of turn, but I think we all want to look for our home, like our immediate home. Like I grew up in Massachusetts, my father's from India, my mother's from Slovenia, so I'm obviously looking for these places to call home. And that's your first objective. Over time, as you're up there for a little while, you know where those places are, and then I was sort of quizzing myself. I would never look at the map. I would just go to the window and say, like, guess what continent this is? And I was getting better and better at it. I think that phase 3, though, was really looking at the planet as one planet. Our planet is alive. Some people think there's just rocks out there, but it's moving. Couldn't see those specific movements, but I could see the atmosphere. I could see the interaction. I could see the seasons. I could see the changes in the ocean colors with algae blooms, for example, or seeing ice formations in the north, in the high northern hemisphere or down near Antarctica. You can see all of this planet which is connected. And you think to yourself, of course, the air and the water are connected. And then you think to yourself, for me, it was like, oh my God, every person I know is there. Every animal, every plant, everything we know is there. And we're all on this one, they call it a little spaceship in our solar system. And, I think it changes your perception about us having any differences. It really makes you feel like we are just one, and we all should probably work a little bit closer and easier together. And it actually sort of made me feel like, why would anybody argue about anything? I know, I'm married, I have a husband, we argue, so I understand arguments, but the reality of it is like.
All right, in fact, now let me go across to ISRO former Deputy Director, Dr. Venkateshwara Sharma. Thank you so much, sir, for waiting and also for joining us on the broadcast. So when we look at 27 years in a high stakes environment, Sunita Williams obviously has left a legacy behind, and now we are hearing obviously of talks that she might come to India. Do you think there might, such veteran astronauts like her can help in our programs as well?
Good afternoon to you, and good afternoon to million NewsX viewers. She's a towering personality, no doubt about it, right? And she is mentally, physically, psychologically so fit that no technology techniques would bring such type of physical, mental, psychological fitness where she was in space for 608 days, the 3 consecutive missions, and the last mission was really something which was horrifying for everyone. The entire world was looking at how safely to bring her back after getting stranded in ISS for nearly 286 days, and she was brought back very safely in February 2025. Even the country, India, every citizen in the country was concerned, and they were watching safe return of Sunita Williams. Having said that, look, there are 2 major qualities that we should appreciate from Sunita Williams. One is that she is a thorough technocrat and a thorough rocket scientist, and very, very thorough professional in terms of doing her job for continuously 27 years and contributing for this, for the well-being of the human beings. And that is really, really important, that as a scientist, as a technocrat, as an engineer, one should do their, perform their dharma, what we call it as dharma, and their duty is something which she accomplished. This is one. Second thing is, as I said, she had been extremely resilient, and she demonstrated how to behave, how to take forward, and she became a role model for the entire world, and specifically the country, the Indian children and Indian nationals, how to be resilient and take the challenges ahead and still perform our duty and come out successfully. This second. Third and most important thing is also look at her the statements what she is making from the space. She says that I can see everything. I can see no boundaries. I can see we are all one, and why are we fighting, and why we need to have differentiation among ourselves. And when we see from space, space doesn't really recognize any boundaries, any individuals, or it doesn't differentiate anybody, and space treats everyone as equal. And that's how I think that is a very strong cultural background which she is carrying. I think I must mention about it that even though she is born to India and multicultural parents, father from India and mother from some other country, and getting born and grown up in America and a completely different culture, still having very strong base in what we call it as the belief in Hindu system, and carrying Bhagavad Gita and idol, and also saying that I very strongly believe in the system that my parents have inherited, and I very strongly believe it, and it gives a very strong message that even though you are technically very strong, you are a scientist, you are everything, you necessarily knew your duty, but also the science, once it matures, should be followed by spirituality, is what she has demonstrated. And I think that gives a very proper balance to this, the society, to the humankind, and also the children who are into the next generation children who are into following her footsteps. Is something I think she is a very towering personality for this country, namely the Bharat, to follow from her. This is a major part. As far as her presence in this country, I'm not sure when she is likely to come and what she is going to be doing. I'm sure that for some days she would be, sort of going through the country, going through its various, key locations, and probably after that she might like to offer her consultancy services to the Government of India, the Department of Space, for our human space program. Definitely, such type of towering personalities, when they are around, when they give guidance, it becomes really, really important. Please remember that we sent Subhanshu Shukla to ISS for 14 days and spending 550 crores just to get an experience of how an astronaut would be behaving, or how he feels when he is there for transit before he takes off. When he travels in space, what will be mental psychological condition? We need to have all those studies. And please remember also that Subhanshu Shukla, immediately after takeoff, 2.5 to 3 hours, he fell into fast asleep, and he was woken up only just before the getting into the ISS. And after getting into ISS, he made 14 experiments, and those experiments were useful. His experience for staying there for 14 days was very useful for us, and bringing him back successfully. All this we took it as a requirement, and we learnt it. But if somebody like Sunita Williams, where she was in space for 608 days and had many spacewalks and if she is able to give us guidance and guidelines for our astronauts, our space programs, our Gaganyaan, and our what is proposed to be Bharat Space Station, which is scheduled to be
Right. I believe there is some connection issue over there, sir. But like sir has been mentioning, so Sunita Williams has always been carrying that Indian heritage with herself. You also mentioned it's very inspiring for youngsters in India as well. She carries a copy of the Bhagavad Gita every time she goes into space. So that's something that everyone looks at. It's an amalgamation of science, of culture, of heritage, and I think all youngsters should look towards her with inspiration. In fact, when we talk of her, so she's a legacy. 608 days in space and 62 hours of spacewalk. just floating in air. That's a record in itself for a woman, sir. And how do you look at those milestones that she has in fact achieved? Because this is something that, like you have mentioned, that India can in fact take forward. They are looking at its own crewed missions to the moon, or to say ISS. We have sent Shubhanshu Shukla as well. So how do you look at these milestones, sir?
Shivani, we must necessarily appreciate and we must necessarily agree that this is something which is not, which is not very ordinary. Something which what she has achieved is extraordinary. As I said, see, for any human being, first what is required is physical, mental, psychological fitness. Whatever you are, whether you are a scientist or a doctor or a medical, that she has demonstrated, and I think that is the biggest takeaway for the entire population of this world, and also specifically India, where we must feel that we must mentally, physically, psychologically fit, and we must necessarily do what is required and necessarily not do what is not required, is what she has demonstrated, and that is one thing we should definitely take it forward. Is one. Second thing is that, of course, going to space 3 times in expedition mission 14, 15, 32, 33, and also the SpaceX mission, which ended in such a chaos for her. I think she really demonstrated that how to handle the critical crisis missions. See, space is an unpardonable zone where there is no excuses for anything. How to manage such critical crisis missions and crisis management is something which really she demonstrated, and which necessarily is a lesson for the entire world, particularly India, where we are planning for Gaganyaan mission in 2026 and 27, is something which we have to necessarily say. Of course, as you rightly mentioned, whatever we may be, whatever technocrats, as human beings, there should necessarily be a balance of emotions as well, which I think which she has demonstrated by, as we always say, where the science matures. See, 99.9% is our effort. 99.9%, we have to work, we have to deliver, we have to contribute. There is no compromise or any takeaways on that. But beyond that is also that once a very senior scientist or an astronaut believes that spirituality also is required, Bhagavad Gita is also something which is giving her mental, psychological strength, and also taking Ganesha every time she goes, and also reciting the Veda and Upanishad, which is giving her, really it gives mental, psychological satisfaction. She has necessarily demonstrated that the Bhagavad Gita and all is not related to any religion or any caste or anything like that, but it is a universal dharma, what it can be. It doesn't really demonstrate to any link, associated with any individual religion or anything like that. It is something like a management book or a textbook, which is like universal for everybody. Something like what we say, water is universal for everybody, fire is universal for everybody, and even the air is universal. We all human beings, all the plants, fires, everybody follow the same, what we call it as dharma. I think that demonstrating that also is something which is a very big takeaway as a scientist and technocrat in space and astronaut. Of course, her presence in India itself will be a great boon for this country, and her experience of 608 days is, and also the do's and don'ts, and also she had been a commander of the spacecraft ISS, and also she had been pilot, and that experience of piloting mechanical and electrical, electronic, and software related experts what she is carrying, and mission management expert she is carrying, and also the logical and logistic experiences she is carrying, and also the human interfaces. It is a very big, rich experience, Shivani, and I think the country must be blessed to have her here and take the advantage of her presence here. And I'm sure the Government of India and in large, and the Department of Space in particular, would necessarily look forward for her guidance, and of course in what capacity, etc., and what she wants to do. Of course she has to decide, and an agreement has to be reached between the Government of India and Sunita Williams.
Right. Thank you so much